another way to make a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradigm. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Alrighty, let's kick this thing off, surfers. Good morning from paradise. Happy Friday, December 12th. My name is Crypto Amaru, joined with you guys as always with Nick, the Crypto Hitman. Happy to be here, guys. Got a great show for you today. We're going to talk QE. QE, and I put quotes around that, has started today. 40 billion in short-term treasury bills being bought by the Federal Reserve, and that is going to continue month in, month out until further notice. Does this constitute QE truly, though? And does this mean the markets are going to start running as a result? We will discuss. And then we're talking big picture. We are talking macro trends and price predictions for 2026. I know 2025 was tough. Not what we expected. Is 2026 faring better? I think if you've been watching the show, you know our opinions. But I also want to get into something a little bit more granular. What are we going to see, if anything, in terms of altcoin trends? What categories can we expect to get a little bit of hype, a little bit of momentum? So we will talk about that and try to predict the future with the Nick Stradamus here. So happy to be here, guys. Let's talk QE for a minute because it is December 12th. That is the day the Fed is commencing the 40 billion in short-term T-bills, as they're known. Those purchases have commenced, or they are commencing today, and they will continue. I know everyone on crypto Twitter, QE, QE, QE. Is this really QE though? Or does it? And if it isn't, does it even matter? And do we think the market's going higher as a result? Let's discuss.
I mean, technically it's QE, and you got some of the biggest names in the industry, such as Anthony Pompliano, saying messages like this. Pretty vague, not really going into the detail we are. The fact that it's short-term interest rates and not long-term does have a less of an impact, that's for sure. But nonetheless, it is still good to see that this activity is going on with the injection that you were talking about. Also, remember the Fed cutting rates is also rate cuts on short-term interest, not on long-term too. So, again, that's why it's more of a delayed effect. Just like we've seen 3 interest rate cuts at 0.25. Those are technically short-term interest rates, and that's why it takes longer to everything to kind of kick in and see those effects. And that's why people want to see 50 basis point cuts and 3 more cuts into next year. But I guess it counts as QE. I mean, what were they calling it yesterday? Like QE light, and now this is official QE, and then what's next? Super QE? Like, I don't know. You tell me.
I think everyone has a slightly different take or different term on this. I think it's a little bit simplistic to just call it QE. QE, in its sort of traditional form, is designed to bring down the long-term interest rates and stimulate the economy. Because what's happening today is the purchasing of short-term treasury bills, shorter-term debt. It's not really designed to impact the long-term interest rates, which, of course, those have the real impact on your mortgage, your car loan, your credit card. It's the long-term rates that matter much more. And so to call this true QE, I think is slightly disingenuous. I think QE light is a reasonable term to use. I mean, they are buying assets, so that's good. That's good, and there should be some stimulative effect. I think from a market standpoint, though, it almost doesn't matter. Because if the narrative around these T-bill purchases is that this is the start of QE, and everyone buys into that narrative, then that, I think, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy from a market standpoint. There's like, hey, start a QE. Time to load up, time to buy in, time to get bullish and risk on again. So I'm not sure it necessarily matters too much. Obviously, the sophisticated Wall Street types, they do know better. But retail folks, if, Anthony Pompliano and all the big talking heads are saying QE started, well, I guess QE has started.
Right, take it for what it is, I guess. Here's the Bitcoin chart, $92,500 right now. After the little bit of dip yesterday, it caught itself again, holding, trying to break above these moving averages. That's what you really want to see. And then the next target up would be this red line up to around 97,000, 98,000. We got Willie Blong 33 in here, says, good morning, fellows. Been liking your macro takes. Thanks for the alpha. And as the market finds a rounded bottom for Bitcoin and Ethereum and the market starts to heat up, that's where the true alpha comes in, as then you can start looking to altcoins, new launches, pre-sales, micro caps, and new networks other than just Ethereum and Bitcoin to make those gains. So we'll see what happens here on Bitcoin, but again, remains constructive. The dip yesterday did what? A higher low. That's exactly what we said it needed to do, and so far it's done just that. Now, and it will need to fight upstream today. The Dow is up a little bit, not much, 0.17%. Last I checked, the Nasdaq was actually down. Yeah, down 0.5% today. And then let's see what the SPY is doing. Down 0.18. So stocks are pretty neutral. The Nasdaq I would constitute as down because it is down 0.5%. But Bitcoin trying to hold in. Bitcoin is down 0.15% at 92,400 as we speak. And Ethereum is actually underperforming today, but still $3,228. Did put in another higher low, but this doesn't look like we're out of the deep end just yet. This could go lower, but hold at this yellow line, which puts in another higher low. But again, nothing too exciting. Nothing changes that much right now in crypto day by day, which I know is weird to say because normally things are very volatile. This just looks like it's trying to grind higher, trying to flip a bearish bear flag formation into a bullish formation by putting in higher lows along the way. And you could see inverse head and shoulders forming here. Left shoulder, head. We come down here, right shoulder, and then off to the races with a $1,000 measured move from a breakout above 3,500, which would put you right back to where? Right around the highs, around $4,500 to $4,600. Critical levels, as we've been saying for a long time, $5,000 ETH is when the fun starts. $5,000 ETH is what we need to see for Ethereum, for altcoins, for retail, for Pulse Chain, and for so many more things in this industry.
I really don't hate these charts. Bitcoin, ETH, they're grinding higher. They're grinding higher from the lows. I don't know what. Look, it's not euphoric. There aren't massive green dildos popping up left and right, just smack you in the face. But slow grind up. I mean, I'm not being greedy. I'm happy with that. I'll take it. As long as I'm much better at that than the 30% washout that we saw a few weeks ago, right? So slow grind up. I got no issues. Obviously, it has not spilled over into altcoins by any means. One index we don't often look at, I think you should put it up on your terminal though, the Russell 2000. The Russell 2000, that's comprised of the low cap stocks. That's been outperforming like mad since the Powell press conference, since the rate cut, and since the news of the QE light, the Russell 2000. And I would argue that the Russell 2000, those low cap stocks, much more similar in risk profile to Bitcoin, certainly to Ethereum and Solana and the likes of your small cap gems. And here's a great chart from I forget Max Crypto. I want to give credit. We got to give credit where credit's due. Overlaying those two, ETH and the Russell 2000. I mean, striking similarities there, and it makes sense because of the liquidity conditions. So, what do you make of the Russell 2000 and its sort of correlation with Ethereum?
Yeah, this looks like a correlation since early 2023, so it hasn't been the longest chart here, but it follows pretty well, and you can see the dips in Ethereum. Sometimes ETH outperforms Russell 2000, other times Russell 2000 outperforms ETH, but they do correlate a lot with the peaks and the valleys here. And like you said, this is because Russell 2000 is kind of the index of risk-on, low-cap degeneracy when it comes to stocks, and that's kind of what Ethereum and crypto currently is, with the smaller market capitalizations, the speculative nature of the markets, and the need of liquidity and speculation in order to drive prices higher. And we did see Russell 2000 just break out to new all-time highs since mid-2023, just these past couple days, as Ethereum and Bitcoin trying to rally off the lows. So it would be nice if we could follow suit. I don't think we get all the way up here, but that would put Ethereum probably right around that 4,200 to 4,500 range if it mimicked Russell 2000's move, which also would line up with the inverse head and shoulders potentially I just saw, which also will line up with critical levels where if the bulls can get a forced liquidation that kind of gets us, that squeeze that gets us above 5,000, that's where I think euphoria, FOMO, retail, and everything really kicks into action.
Yeah, I think it's coming, guys. The market's getting more risk on. You see the S&P 500 did hit all-time highs yesterday, I believe. It's actually underperforming, I think, a little bit because Oracle took a big hit
Huge
because
hit.
they overinvested in AI infrastructure and their earnings didn't keep up or whatever the case was. Netflix also is taking a big hit, and they make a big part of the index on the S&P 500. So it's interesting to look at the Russell 2000 as sort of that correlative index relative to Ethereum and maybe even Bitcoin. I do think, look, the market's getting more risk on. 2026 is going to be the bull market year. I know we probably sound like a broken record. You guys are too bullish. You guys are too bullish. I want to hear bearish stuff. Well, you don't come to Crypto Paradise for bearish takes, guys, because we're not bearish on this industry, and we're not bearish on financial assets in general, the markets. So, if you want to be bearish and short, I guess tune in to another channel. But I'm feeling good about where we are. Bitcoin, crypto. I'm feeling good about the stock market. I don't own any low cap stocks, by the way. I know, Nick, you probably. I mean, is the likes of the SBT and the Bitmart, like, where are they listed? Is that Nasdaq?
I don't think they're in the Russell or anything. I would have to really look because I honestly don't know. I just hold those spots. So maybe by Monday's live show, I'll have that information for you guys. Again, I don't own any low caps that I think really fall into the Russell 2000. If you follow my Twitter or this live stream, recently at the lows, it happened to be at the lows so far. Hopefully Ethereum keeps grinding higher. Sold a lot of my stock positions just to buy SBT, Bitminer, a little bit of Zone, and the BNB one. Of course, we also have Coinbase in the portfolio, GameStop in the portfolio. So pure degeneracy off these lows, and that's why I said rags to riches. Maybe I'll be on a cardboard box. In the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. The stock account is a long-term account anyways, almost like a retirement. So if it blows up right now, it blows up. And really the gamble for me is, do I think Ethereum will be higher in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now than it is right now, because all those assets are tied to Ethereum and Bitcoin price? My thought process is yes. So does it get blown up right now and Hex Bull is right and we're doom and gloom for 2 years and that feels like shit? Sure, it could, but I wasn't touching that stock portfolio for 10, 20, 30 years anyways. So as long as I believe in Ethereum for the outlook, the future, all those assets should do well. They're not levered up. SharpLink Gaming isn't levered. Bitminer isn't levered. Coinbase tied to the industry. I'm not playing, the ETH Strategic Reserve that's the 10th one down the list and could blow up, in my opinion.
I think the only question in my mind and in the audience mind is, if it does blow up, does that mean you'll still be doing the show with me in 30 years from now?
I'll need to.
You guys want to hear from us in 30
Buy SharpLink Gaming at $1.
It's not like we're working in the mines, folks. So technically we could do this for 30 years, just sitting around talking about the markets. Not that difficult of a job. But we do stuff behind the scenes. Client calls, things of that nature. Great comments today coming through. Love what you guys are talking about here. I do want to get to, Roan, your comment on Fuck 9 to 5 in a little bit later on the discussion. So we'll circle back to that when we start to talk about some trends, altcoin low cap trends in 26. But this is an interesting, and by the way, shout out to you, Willie. Appreciate you jumping in. I love when new people come, because that's what we need. We got to grow, right? So tell your friends about Crypto Paradise. Stock market degens could start moving to crypto in the summer. Yeah, this has been an interesting thing, right? I think 2025, the trend was crypto degens jumping in the stock market. And you saw a lot of that. I mean, if you're in the groups, if you're in Telegram 24/7 like we are, I mean, I see people talking about stock plays now. I see people talking about ETFs now, much more so than crypto. But things are cyclical. Money shifts, attention shifts. We talk about that a lot. I mean, people are lining up around the street to buy gold a couple months ago or weeks ago, whatever that was. Pokemon's going on a crazy run. Who remembers when Rolex watches were popping off? I mean, NFTs, whatever. The attention and the money will move and shift around. I do think eventually, as the market gets more bullish throughout 26, you mentioned the stimulus checks, the big beautiful bill. That's actually very stimulative as well. You have a lot of macro stuff coming that's going to get people more risk on, and then they'll say, okay, well, maybe my Russell 2000 trade, maybe that's topped. Where's an opportunity now that I can buy in low? Oh, well, I don't like crypto. I got burned in 21, but I'm feeling pretty bullish anyway. It looks pretty low, so I'm going to buy into this ETH and this Solana and these degen plays. Could well happen.
Yeah, and we were talking about bullish macro setups for next year, but Crypto Rover is bearish. Bitcoin performance during midterm years is horrendous. Average return negative 65%. The next midterm year is 2026, starting in just 19 days. I'll let you tell you what your thoughts are. What I saw when I immediately look at this is look at the years. It's literally the year after the top of every bull market after the 4-year cycle. So I think it's less about the midterms. It's more about the business cycle. And the question is Hexbull right here. What's up, Moon Bros, LOL? Anyways, what's there to talk about besides the Bitcoin head and shoulder looming? Is he right in the 4-year halving cycle has completed, and now we're starting our 2-year downtrend, and Bitcoin's going to 40 or 50,000, Ethereum's going to 1,300 or 1,500, and then, of course, that means you're going to have a red 2026 that happens to be in the midterm year, or are we right, the ISM is right, and it's all about the business cycle, which has not expanded yet. It's still at like 48, which means it could be a 5-year or even a 6-year cycle for the business cycle. We'll have to wait and see, and we could break history just like we did this year. Look at the yearly return for 2025, which is supposed to be your 4-year cycle top, negative 1.45. That is unheard of when it comes to cycle tops and all previous cycles. And we have a green 2026 debunking this 4-year cycle narrative as well.
You know me, I never went by calendars when making trading or investing decisions. I don't think it's quite so simple as, oh, well, it happened X amount of days ago, and that's happened 2 or 3 other times before, and therefore it's going to happen again. There's underlying trends that explain price performance pretty much in every case. And we've documented, others have documented. Raoul Pal is a great resource, and he's got a whole team of quants and super smart people, much more so than us, talking about the correlation and really the causation, I should say, between liquidity, ISM, business cycle, and price performance of Bitcoin. So yeah, I don't look at these dates as anything other than just coincidental. I actually think this time, the midterm, the fact we are moving into the midterm, the fact that Trump and the Republicans, by the way, they just got their asses handed to them on 3 or 4 elections like a month ago. Even in the state where I'm at. So they lost pretty handily. So number of losses for Republicans, people complaining about affordability, complaining about the economy, inflation, blah, blah, blah. They need to engineer improvement across the economy, and that includes the financial markets, leading into these midterms. So, yeah, it's never quite so simple as happened before on such and such a date, therefore will happen again. There's always underlying reasons. And to me, this time, the fact there's a midterm is actually bullish for risk assets, because you got Trump in charge. He wants to pump things. He wants to make America great again, blah, blah, blah. And I think he's going to do his best to make it happen. So great discussion, guys. Great discussion. Appreciate you jumping in on the comments. Here's an interesting comment from Willie again. Everyone's got to take more risk. Most people have no choice. And I agree with you to a very large degree. I think investors will start to take more risk. Many will anyway, the younger ones. What's so interesting, though, is how many people actually are not investors in the market. Even like people who make decent money. Maybe they'll have a 401k that they don't pay attention to, probably don't max out, so maybe got a little something. But you'd be amazed how many people, probably even in your own life, who you would say, okay, they're doing well, they got a job, family, whatever. They should be thinking about their future. They should be investing, but they don't. Let alone investing in crypto and Bitcoin. So I agree, most people have no choice. They should be investing. Inflation is killing the dollar every year to the tune of like 5 to 6%, 7%, and yet they're not investing. So it's a crazy thing to think that most people have no choice but to invest and still won't. What's your take on that, Hitman?
I mean, yeah, I think part of that is a lot of people who must invest are also in the cycle of, remember, loans are at all-time highs, credit cards at all-time highs, defaults on cars for subprime and subprime members is at all-time highs. So you only have so many dollars to go around, and if you're behind on your debt, you're spending frivolously, you're trying to eat and survive, you don't have very many dollars to invest, or if you only have a couple dollars to invest, maybe you get into the most extreme, almost Ponzi-esque risk on things rather than just getting started by dabbling into some things. I always tell people when you first get into crypto, start by dollar cost averaging into Bitcoin or Ethereum. At this point in time, I'd be saying Ethereum, even if it's $5 a week. And then once that gets to a meaningful amount, $2,000, $5,000, $10,000, then you could start looking at dollar cost averaging into another altcoin, or maybe making a swing trade on Bitcoin, or maybe making a swing trade on Ethereum at major tops or major lows or whatever it is. But until then, just set it up, because if you actually can, force yourself to dollar cost average, which you can on Coinbase, $5, $10, $50 a week, you'll be able to live without it. But if you have to tell yourself at the end of the week, okay, what money do I have left? I need to make sure to get that Bitcoin buy-in. It's just not going to happen, and you're going to say you don't have enough money. So I actually have a story. A guy in the Crypto Paradise community started a few years back. I don't know if he wants me to dox him or not, but he started with like $5 a week DCA, then increased it to 10 or 20, but he was doing it the entire bear market, 2023, 2024, and now he has meaningful capital. He's in the Surf DAO. He's got a bunch of Hex. He's got a bunch of PTGC. He's owned some Zen. He has capital to do stuff, but it just started by him doing a forced dollar cost average each and every week until that portfolio built up by the DCA, by the trades, and by the expansion of the crypto market itself. So, for those of you who are not investing, either educate yourself or just force yourself to invest $5. You can all come up with $5, skip one Starbucks coffee, and get started.
That really did deserve a clap and a cheer from the audience. Absolutely, absolutely. And I know everyone tuning in, you guys are investors, so we're probably, preaching to the choir, however you want to say that. But yeah, it's amazing. In my life, I have friends who make great money. Because I come from a legal background. I went to law school. A lot of my friends, pretty successful lawyers still. I don't know what's up with them. They don't like to invest and take risks. I guess that's like if you're making money, if you're like successful salary wise, I don't even know what's going on.
They probably just think like the auto delegation of the 401k is enough, and they're like, oh, my 401k's got 200 grand in it. That's a good enough investment. Auto invest, But in order to take the next leap, you have to take some of your excess income and take risk on other things. That's what your 401k is there for. It's your buffer. It's your retirement account. You're not touching it till you're old. But, with your excess money is where you take some risks. You live your life, either it's vacations, investments, whatever, and then you have that buffer of that 401k to fall back on.
I mean, the crazy thing is, if you're just doing the 401k thing, which I think everyone should do that if they can, and certainly if their company matches or whatever, you're going to just barely beat inflation over time. Because, my retirement account by the time I'm 65, mine got $2 million in there. But $2 million in 30 years isn't going to be the same as $2 million today. This house I'm sitting in now is probably going to cost $2 million. It's a very normal average house. I'm not sitting in a mansion here. So that's the corrosive effect of inflation. Your 401k will keep up with that, and maybe a little bit. You know what I mean? Maybe a little bit outperformed by a couple percentage points. If you want to outperform inflation, you got to get a little bit more risk on. And here's Bitcoin staring you in the face. Here's Ethereum staring you in the face. I know everyone thinks it's expensive. These are expensive assets. But do you really think, looking in 10 years from now, Bitcoin's going to be sub $100,000? My guess is going to grow 30% year over year. It's grown more than that historically. I'm being conservative. So in any event, get invested. Tell your friends about Crypto Paradise. Tell your friends about Bitcoin and crypto. That's how we get adoption, guys. And that's how you make it on the beach. Let's see here. We got some great comments coming from Hex Bull.
Before we read that one, Rowan did mention fuck 9 to 5.
Yeah, let's go back to that real quick.
Fuck 9 to 5 is one we got involved in at like 300K market cap before the move to 3 million, and they gave an additional buy at a $2 million market cap on the dip, or maybe $1 million market cap before it ran to 16 million. Obviously, we still hold some of those tokens, gave some profit sells on fuck 9 to 5 with those massive moves. But yeah, they're still active. During the doldrum of the drawdown of Bitcoin and Ethereum, the doldrum of meme coins getting crushed, fuck 9 to 5, still a micro cap that is active. I don't even know what the market cap's at. Maybe we'll look at the chart here in a little bit. But I think it's back to around that 200, 300,000 market cap maybe. We'll take a look at that, like I said, here in a little bit. But it's nice to see him still grinding here, because Murad is still grinding for SPX 6900 or whatever. I see he's doing more videos on that, cut his hair, shaving. That dude is taking a 98% hit on his portfolio. Still pushing it, still has conviction, still has belief. So shout out to Fuck 95 for doing their Murad impression and still putting out great content, even though prices are down in that sector.
Great take as always. Yeah, actually, we heard from those guys a couple days ago because we got the group chat with them and stuff like that. They're, I guess, I don't want to call it a rebrand. Let's call it enhancing the brand. Let's call it updating the brand. They're not changing the name or anything like that. Not changing the narrative. I think they're just, doing some upgrades around the images or things like that. So yeah, the activity level's still there. The community's still active. Look, if you're in memes, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about what trends do we foresee, coming to life in 2026. Do we think memes make a comeback? Murad predicted first part of the cycle memes were hot, therefore second part of the cycle memes are going to be hot. Do we buy into that? Or maybe it's going to be something else more utility based? My take, frankly, is memes will absolutely make a comeback. You still see there's still a lot of volume on Pump Fun, believe it or not, guys.
I know, it's crazy.
Which is fucking nuts. We talked to a project the other day. They're building infrastructure on Pump Fun to help basically buy in quicker, this and that. There's still a lot of volume. And I'm like, who are these people? It's just crazy. There's still a lot of degenerates. So the risk on sector of the market, that really hasn't, it's obviously decreased, hasn't gone to zero. So it's got a nice base. I think once we're super bullish again, we're super risk on, ETH's at $10,000, Bitcoin 150 or more, we're going to see memes make a major comeback. Now, whether it's more the new memes or the kind of the tried and true, like ones that have a real community, my hope would be it's a lot of the tried and true ones, because I still have invested in a bunch. But what's your feeling on that? You think memes make a comeback, or is that just?
Everybody always says memes are dead, memes aren't going to happen again, but cycle after cycle, memes become a reality. The first meme was Doge. That was pre the 2017 run. Doge already existed pre-2017 because it was a Bitcoin fork. Then in 2017, you had the rise of Doge along with a couple other memes hitting the market. You had 2020 and 2021, you had meme cycle. And then during the last bear market is when you had meme cycle with Pepe. We made a lot of money with Mong, with Fuck 9 to 5, and some other things. So I think memes always find their way into the market cycle. Not always the easiest to predict which memes are going to be the big mooners. But during that finite time, many memes do well if you're willing to get behind, show loyalty, do a CTO, get in the trenches, whatever it is, you can usually make some money. And I don't think that changes this cycle, even though many people will doubt it. Murad himself doesn't think it. Now, the thing that's interesting about the crypto market, Murad went from a zero to a hero on the basis of a meme coin super cycle, getting people positioned in these meme coins near all-time highs, and that portfolio at the lows was down like 95 or 98%, and still gets all the spotlight. So sometimes it isn't just about price performance, it's also about eyes. It's about attention, and attention leads to price performance later down the road. So look, I think memes will be here. I think it's crazy that Pump Fun still has volume. I think it's crazy that Murad got as famous as he has when he literally lost everybody 95% of their money, besides like 5% of people. But he still pops up on the feed. He still gets invited to all the conferences. He still gets invited to all the big shows to talk his thesis of this meme coin supercycle. And I think it's just in human nature that memes are relevant more now than ever. You see it with Elon Musk. You see it with GameStop. You see it with President Trump being a troll. It's everywhere in your life, and it's going to impact the financial markets as well.
Got some great comments. I want to get to them, but I want to push back on your take on Murad. And yes, I guess he did lose people a lot of money, and that's not good. And maybe in a perfect world, that would mean he lost all his followers. But isn't there something to be said for conviction in the face of just, bear market and just everyone's super bearish and it's just everything's burning down, and here is this guy just chatting it out, just holding it through the shit. Like, we should give him some credit and some props for that. I'm not saying you should copy trade the guy or whatever, but I think there's something to be said for that conviction, for sure. That kind of like craziness. And Bitcoin OGs, they were crazy. Mm-hmm. Bitcoin was a meme for 10 years up until a couple of years ago when Wall Street finally accepted it. So sometimes you got to be a little bit delusional. People call me delusional, I think, probably, because I'm also a little delusional when it comes to my favorite bags. My favorite bags happen to be more utility based. But in any event, let's talk about what Hexbill is talking about. By the way, Nick's taking huge risks. Yes. Nick did port, what was it, 75% of your stock?
75%. Yeah.
Yeah, into the likes of Bitmine, SBET, other strategic reserve companies. So I love to see it. Okay, let's make a bet. New high in 26. Throw a crazy bash at the Paradise Pad. If they don't, you throw me, dude, Done. That's easy. That's an easy bet to make for me. We're already inviting people down to the Paradise Pad, so you can go anytime you want. By the way, just hit me up. So yeah, absolutely. Let's make that bet.
The only thing is he says highs in 2026, but then the next message says timing for Bash Party summer 2026. So it's hard to, although I believe that we're gonna have highs by then, it's hard to know. Is there going to be a new highs in 2026 if you're trying to have, a bash 6 or 8 months into 2026 and leaving, a whole quarter still to go?
And then here's the caveat as well on this bet. Bitcoin and PLS. I'm pretty confident in Bitcoin hitting a high in 26. PLS
and Ethereum. PLS, I don't know. Let me even run the math on what kind of move that would be.
There you go. Yeah, let's look at what the implications
how
of
many
that
X's is. That is.
Yeah, it's with PLS you're relying more just on more than just a macro sort of picture and liquidity and stuff. You are relying a little bit what's called lightning in a bottle with Richard Hart doing the right stuff. So that's always been the risk factor and kind of the X factor with Pulse Chain. You're relying on Richard Hart to a large degree to do the right things. But maybe we make a compromise here, Hexball.
New all-time highs on PLS would be right around a 9.2x, 9.1x from here. So if PLS does a 10x, it's way above previous all-time high. That actually doesn't seem that crazy. Yeah, that doesn't seem very crazy when I look at that. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, but I'm willing to make a compromise bet as well. So we're in on the bet, by the way. We're absolutely in on the bet, and let's see what happens. It's the Bulls versus the Bear, right? It's an easy way to put it. And we'll absolutely throw a party down in Tulum. We already wanted to do that. The compromise bet could be if Bitcoin hits all-time high, PLS doesn't. We'll still do the bash, but we'll split the cost half. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. If you want to do that, Hexball. By the way, is Hexball is he in the DAO? Is he in the
I don't know if he has the same name. I'm not sure if he has the same name across different platforms. I'm not sure.
Yeah, let us know if you're in the
tell us. And I thought somebody messaged me on Twitter or tagged me, and it was kind of similar to Hexball's comments, but I don't know if it was the same. So I don't like doxing people even if it's fake names. So you let us know.
Yeah, jump in the Telegram, man, because if we're entering the bets, I need to DM you and have this shit in writing. I think anyway, you know what I mean? I'm willing to make the bets, but let's make this official by actually getting something there in writing. So jump in the Telegram, jump in the Crypto Telegram, hit me up, Crypto Amaru over there. Not hard to figure out who I am I lose a flyer type 5 viewers out there, a huge bash. I win, you find me out, throw me a party. Done. I'm always looking for an excuse to go down to Tulum. I mean,
sorry, honey, I lost a bet. I know Bitcoin's at 30,000 and Hexball is right, but now I got to spend another 5,000 for Hexball to party on the beach and see some thong bikinis.
Dude, I'm telling you, I'm trying to get my friends in real life. It's cold as shit right now where I'm at. For some reason, I got hit by an Arctic blast. It's 28 degrees outside. I'm dropping my kids off at the preschool. It's freaking freezing. I'm like, if only I could get out of this cold. If only I had a place to go. Wait, I do. Why am I not there right now? This is nuts. I'm hitting up my friends, and they're like, dude, I got a real job. Well, you should have held on to your Bitcoin.
Take some PTO. Lily Blong 33 says, damn, that's a nice risk reward for PLS. Yeah, I mean, that is. And also, we've been preachers that if you're going to buy core tokens, I personally think that PLSX will outperform all of them. That's kind of been the case of PLSX versus PLS since inception. So that's done very well. If you don't believe me, go to look at the PLSX versus PLS chart. You can see what I'm talking about. And, that's the way I think things cookie crumbles. And we've also been more heavy into PTGC. If PLS does well, I think history repeats itself. PTGC has greatly outperformed PLS plus producing passive income plus deflationary since its inception. I think that trend continues. And then the new one to the market is Surf. Obviously more risk, lower liquidity, smaller market capitalization. But we saw when Pulse Chain had that month and a half of up, Surf launched at $10,000 market cap, went to 3.9 million while producing passive income, while producing deflation, and has rode the liquidity trend down as Pulse Chain went to new all-time lows. Surf did not go to new all-time lows. It's still sitting around 250,000 market cap. And the thing is, if PLS goes up, Surf catches a bid. If some of the other assets on the network goes up, Surf catches a bid. If we stay active here and bring in new buyers, it catches a bid. If we get marketing deals that have nothing to do with the Pulse chain, it catches a bid because we'll port that money into buy and burns. And then, of course, if it just catches automatic market maker volume from bots due to liquidity pools and the liquidity web, which are small right now, so the volume's small over on Pulse chain, that does go to the DAO, which eventually goes to buying and burning Surf as well. So, my biggest portions on Pulse chain, I go heavy on Pulse chain, is PTGC, is Surf, and then I have a little bit of PLSX and a couple other things mixed in that we've talked about and made trades on in the past. But my exposure to blue chips comes from PTGC. And if you want blue chips, I choose PLSX, and that's been correct on both of those since inception.
I think all of those Pulse chain assets, PLSX, PTGC, Surf, will do well in the upcoming bull run. The reason I like Surf out of all of those the most, I am a little biased. I will admit that. But the fact is there are additional utilities for Surf outside of the automatic smart contract based, buy and burns, automatic liquidity ads, etc. There's additional utilities. One of the big utilities, honestly, being a part of the DAO, holding 200,000 Surf, and I see you, Hexball, not in the DAO. Got to get you in the DAO, my friend. Hit me up on Telegram anyway. When the market gets risk on again, there will be a demand for investing into new projects, into the pre-sales, into the lowest possible price that the tokens are offered at. And we have a history, going back 6-7 years, of getting access to those kind of deals. If you guys were to ask, hey, Crypto Armor, how'd you make money in crypto? Well, yes, I did buy Ethereum early. I did get Bitcoin early. That obviously helps a lot. But it was the pre-sales that actually made the most. 100x opportunities, over and over and over. We had like 5 of those in a row last cycle, in the early part of the last cycle. We're still getting the deals, guys. In fact, there is a deal opportunity on the table right now in the Surf DAO for a very hyped up project called Space, which is launching on Solana in a week or two. And it is essentially a leverage trading platform on top of prediction markets and has a partnership with Kalshi. So, pretty hyped up project, pretty damn good project. I know everyone's low on cash and can't invest into things, and I get it. I'm also not really in a position to get super risk on at the moment, sadly enough. But we're still bringing in the deals. And what happens then when the market gets very heated up and everyone wants to jump into the new projects, everyone gets to the seed round? We're usually pretty good at getting into them, at least the ones we get in front of. Now, one of the challenges we have that I'm trying to rectify at the moment is how do we get in front of more projects? You know what I mean? How do we increase our business development sort of reach and get in front of more projects to get more opportunities when the market gets bullish? So, PTG doesn't have that. The other one you mentioned, PLSX, doesn't have that. But when people get risk on again and want to find 100x opportunities through pre-sales, I know there's other syndicates and other sort of launch pads, whatever you want to call it, but I like to think we're pretty good at our jobs.
Willie Belong puts the alien faces there. Maybe he owns PTGC, and then he says, how much is a DAO position to Surf? It's 200,000 Surf or more. That's like $500 right now at current prices. That's like very cheap to get in the DAO. At the highs, it was 10,000 or something like that when it was 3.9 million market cap. But it shows you how expensive, how quickly it can become expensive. If PLS does a 3x, I would assume that Surf's going to be back towards all-time highs. So we'll see how everything plays out, but that's most likely what would happen. Again, you can also go on the website, cryptoparadise.net, click on the DAO tab and see the other tiers because you can get upgrades as you own more Surf. I would recommend getting at least 400,000 Surf or more because that's only like $1,000, maybe $1,100. And that's going to kind of get you to that next tier, get you access to, the Frontier Fund investments when the next round opens and several other things moving forward. So these are rock bottom prices. If you believe PLS is going to create some kind of round bottom and has a future, then Surf is going to rise as well. We saw when PLS did that 85% move in one candle when 1.5 million from Tornado Cash bought it. Surf actually went up big. When PLS went up like 34%, Surf went up 44%. It actually outperformed with very little new buyers just due to the liquidity provisions and the token tax system that it has. And we didn't inject any of the DAO funds into that or anything. So, truth is in the pudding. History will repeat itself. PTGC was the guiding light on the liquidity web and the token tax system and the hardiness of it over time. Surf mimicked a lot of that, added some token utilities. Obviously, PTGC is the king. They got the most liquidity. They got the biggest brand name. They've been here the longest, but that doesn't mean that other people can't emulate what works. And also, we have a liquidity pool with PTGC and UFO to give them homage as well. We bought some of their tokens off the open market, threw it into the liquidity pool, and we talk about them on Crypto Paradise, almost daily.
Yeah, we just need Pulse Chain to catch a bid, and I think the solid plays over there will do well, including Surf. Appreciate your comment, Willie. Great marketing with Surf. Great meme. Makes you think retirement. Surfing in Puerto Rico. LFG. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the brand, right? It's follow the channel. Let's learn about crypto together. Let's make some money together. And let's try to live the good life, which to me isn't necessarily just grinding in the office every day, working your ass off until you're 65 and then retiring. I think there's more to life and there's ways to enjoy life that's outside the traditional sort of realm. And that's the whole brand. That's really it. And then you add to the fact that you can actually take vacations down in Paradise and spend 5 nights in our condo, what we call the Paradise Pad, which is a real thing, by the way. Go on the YouTube, go on the Twitter. I was down there last week making content all week. You can go down there. So it all kind of comes together. I think, in my mind anyway, it seems like a no-brainer of a brand. Let's continue to grind. Let's continue to work hard together. Tell your friends, tell your family, like, share, subscribe, etc. Let's grow the brand. Let's grow this puppy together. And I think it's something that people, as they learn about it, they do like it.
Yeah, I mean, once you buy 200,000 Surf or more, you can see all the tiers here. Then you simply go to cryptoparadise.net/DAO, and there is a DAO wallet checker. It's a Telegram bot that just has read-only functions on that wallet, verifies you own the 200,000 Surf or more, allows you in the private Telegram group. If you ever sell your Surf and go below 200,000, then it auto kicks you out of that group as well. So it's kind of a token-gated group there. But yeah, 400,000 is kind of the minimum, especially at these prices. That I would say, hey, try to get the 400,000 if it fits in your portfolio, just because you get these extra benefits. And the Frontier Fund was killing it and was the big thing. They've had a down cycle this time around. But when it starts killing it again, people are going to be buying Surf to get into those rounds for that passive income. And then if you think, hey, I really love Surf, but I also want to get extra perks for being a massive whale, we do incentivize you to do so. And that continues to scale up all the way up to 2 million Surf. So we do have a couple holders that do have 2 million Surf, I believe. And they've been long-term chads here regardless of the price. And I think to understand that it's a long-term move here, you got to wait for a cycle and you got to believe in Pulse Chain. Because if Pulse Chain goes up, Surf's going to kill it. You earn passive income simply by holding it. It auto adds to LPs, so you don't have to worry about a rug. It auto buys and burns the tokens, so that should create supply shock over time. And now you just need to get Crypto Paradise brand and marketing growth. You need to have some Pulse Chain volume, some Pulse Chain growth, and let all the things fall into place. I think it's like kind of a meme-tility play and something that we're going to continue to build on and is very flexible and provides a lot of values for its token holders.
Yeah, I think if you're looking at Surf from a speculative standpoint, price go up. I mean, it is largely tied to what happens with PLS and the rest of Pulse Chain. But to me, Pulse Chain is a really asymmetric bet. You have Richard Hart, industry veteran, and surely he's made some mistakes and has not been perfect. But he is sitting on a bag of what was 700 million worth of Ethereum. I think probably now 500 million. I mean, whatever the amount is now with the price a little bit off the all-time highs. Say it's 500 million worth of ETH. And surely he's not going to use all of that to just pump Pulse Chain directly by buying a shit ton of like PLS or whatever. But we saw what happens when 1 million, or was it 1.5 million, was ported through Tornado Cash, from Ethereum chain into Pulse Chain to buy things. Was it 85% move on PLS?
I think it was like 85% on PLSX or something crazy like that at the high.
1.5 million. And I know that probably sounds like a lot to everybody. That's a lot. Guys, that's nothing for crypto. That's nothing. That's peanuts. Look at the volume on Bitcoin and ETH every day. 1.5 million is not a lot of money in this market. And so if Richard just does partially the right things, just like some of the right things, 10% of the right things, Pulse Chain should do very well. And then when Pulse Chain really catches a bid and you start to see the green candles, I think you do get the FOMO. Other people, who are in crypto, maybe they didn't like Pulse Chain, whatever. Green candles rectify everything. Green candles will make anyone FOMO if they're sustained and week after week after month, you will get people FOMOing in. It obviously takes the macro environment, risk assets, blah, 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 to do well. But 10% of the right thing. That's all we're relying on from Richard Hart's standpoint. What do you agree with me or not? Or is it maybe 20% of the right thing?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's so much money. If he just starts bringing that in, you don't really need to onboard new people. Now, you want to onboard new people, get network effect, get current OG participants to not sell like that is. I mean, because they had the 85% rally and then somebody sold into it. You know what I mean? It's down. It's only up like 30% now or whatever it may be. So another person liquidated hundreds of thousands of dollars. I think in yesterday's live show we showed there was a net outflow of 456,000. There was like 400,000 new money, 800,000 money taken out of the ecosystem, which means that is probably the person who sold into that rally, got 800 grand and moved it out, or a couple individuals. So, it's still rinsing going on, but it doesn't take much to make the right things. And I think the thing is, a lot of people didn't like Richard Hart's recorded 45-minute video that he did. I was happy he did a video, but in there a couple times in his own way, he said he's not giving up. He says, hey, when things don't work, you pivot. Hey, there's going to be more in-person marketing. Let's see if we can refine the message. Hey, there's this, there's that, there's this. Like, that doesn't sound like a person who's given up and is moving on. He's talking about pivoting. He's talking about new ideas, new directions, still having the IRL marketing, but with new stickers on the packages, blah, blah, blah. So that means I think he's still pushing. And again, it goes back to the fact of Ethereum. If Ethereum was 5,000 or more and Pulse Chain was still floundering and no money was coming in, then I'll say, oh, shit. Pulse Chain's not going to work. We need to pivot over to BNB. BNB's done well. We're in BNB. We need to focus on Ethereum. We need to focus on whatever the new layer 1 or layer 2 is. But that just isn't the case. If you look around, ADA had a flash crash. Solana's crashed. BNB, the strongest asset, outperformed Bitcoin this cycle so far, came pretty violently off that all-time high it put in. So nothing out here is flourishing. So I don't think it's time to panic when it comes to Pulse Chain. Even though Pulse Chain is now only 40% off the all-time lows or something like that. We're positioned primarily in assets that are way higher than 40% off their all-time lows with PTGC and Surf and PLSX, and we're going to keep pushing for Pulse Chain network effect to kick into play so we can all make a ton of money.
Yeah, what I love about having some exposure to Pulse Chain, we talk about diversification a lot on this channel. Normally in the context of have some also traditional investments so you're not so upset when Bitcoin doesn't go well for a year. But it's also, important within crypto to, I think, have some diversification, have some exposure to different chains. Don't be a maxi. Have some loyalty in life, but don't only love one thing. You'll miss opportunities if that's the case. So for me, not financial advice. My portfolio includes obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, BNB and BNB assets, Solana, some Solana assets, and Pulse Chain assets. I don't really think I hold any other chains right now. ETH chain, obviously, I mentioned. So, but before Surf, I didn't have any exposure to Pulse Chain. And if Nick is even partially right, it will eventually outperform some of these other chains and some of my other plays. And I'll be nicely positioned, nicely diversified. So, happy about the future of Pulse Chain, maybe not the present.
Right. It's also nice to have a reason to look into all the drama of Richard Hart with every tweet and the community and everything else. So, again, it would not feel as good if you just sacrificed in a Pulse Chain and sat on your hands and now it's near all-time lows, but we didn't do that. We swapped PLS to PLSX, which is outperformed. We swapped into PTGC at $1 million market cap. It went as high as like 400 million. It's at 40 million right now, plus passive income. We helped launch the Surf token, which started at 10,000 and still, at 200,000 or 300,000 here, went to 4 million plus paid passive income. So, it's not nice. It doesn't feel good over on Pulse Chain, but at least we're in some assets that have outperformed, paid us for holding, and continue to have a bright future due to the token economics and token utilities built into the actual ecosystem and the smart contract. Talking about what helps Pulse Chain go up, well, Ethereum. We keep talking about Ethereum because it's so important. And Ethereum, since the lows, we were saying will outperform Bitcoin, and right now it's outperformed by like 92% or something. Ethereum spot ETFs are showing the first signs of life after weeks of steady outflows. Modest inflows are starting to return, hinting at easing redemption pressure. A sustained move back into positive territory would signal improving demand into the year-end for Ethereum and really all of crypto.
Yeah, this is big news. If we start to see the ETF inflows increase, well, this is also going to help, first, the price of ETH, of course, but also the price of the digital asset treasury plays, right? Bitmine starts to go up in price, the stock, along with ETH. Well, then they have more capital to deploy. They're going to be able to raise funds, deploy, buy more ETH. It's going to encourage whales and leverage traders to go long on ETH, which I guess is probably a good thing too, unless they get liquidated by the manipulators. And it's just going to cause retail, I think, to get more confidence and want to buy spot ETH. So I think all good signs here. This is going to track the price pretty closely, right? Like when price go down, you start to see the outflows. Price go up, you start to see the inflows. People are simple creatures. They like to buy the green, and green, I think, is in our future here in 2026.
Yeah, it's just the flywheel effect that happens. We always talk about these MNAVs too, and this is how Hexbull could be correct. If these MNAVs stay negative while Ethereum price drops, or who's going to be the buyer? Who's going to step in? Retail isn't here. You need these guys to spur institutional FOMO. And if these MNAVs don't go above 1, it becomes harder to raise more capital. Yes, Bitmine still has a nice stack of cash that could probably buy him another maybe 200,000 ETH or something. Sharplink Gaming has a little bit of cash, which might be able to get them to 1 million ETH. But outside that, they need these MNAVs. They need to flip from a discount to a premium. When the premium occurs, they can leverage that premium to raise more capital, to buy more Ethereum. Ethereum price goes up. Their MNAV stays in a premium. They raise more capital. They buy more Ethereum. That's how we got up to 44, 45, 46, 4,800. It was these guys soaking up supply into the market weakness because they did have positive MNAVs that allowed them to raise outside capital.
I think, you talk about retail not being here. They're going to come back. They're absolutely going to come back. There is a lot of money still in liquid assets in these financial markets. We probably have, last I checked, it was a trillion. $7.5 trillion in money market funds. These are just basically money sitting in your brokerage earning 4%. Well, what happens when the yield goes down because interest rates are going down? The yield you earn in the money market is tied directly to the long-term interest rate. And we know the Fed and the Trump administration are trying to drive that rate down to stimulate the economy. What happens when you're earning 3%, 2%? When you are now earning 2%, let's say we get 2.5% on the long-term rate here at some point, and that's all you can earn in the money market, your financial advisor is going to hit you up. He's going to tell you, look, I recommend you invest elsewhere. This money got sent in the money market because you're not even beating inflation right now. So you got to move into something a little riskier. Now, do those people automatically full port into Bitcoin and ETH and whatever? No. Some will, probably, into ETFs or whatever. But a lot will move into the stock market. And then those guys who are in the stock market are going to say, hey, I got to get more risk on. I got to find out performance because my NVIDIA's already run massively and all of my stock plays have done real well. I got to find out performance somewhere. And I'm gonna move money into crypto. And there's trillions and trillions and trillions sitting in equities.
I think it's between 7 and 8. Oh, I was going to say 7 and 8 trillion just for the money markets.
Yeah, just for the money market. No, we're talking hundreds of trillions for equities.
Yeah.
The amount of money out there in the world is like unfathomable, honestly. The human mind can't even contemplate what the meaning of this, the amount of money this really is, guys. And then here we are, Bitcoin, thinking it's overvalued despite the market cap of a mere 2 trillion. And then ETH at 300 billion, maybe 400 billion now with a little bit of a price increase over the past weeks. This is peanuts compared to the old basket of all liquid assets.
Are we going to have to wait till 2040 to be rich? Are we going to be pre-rich until 2040, or what's the plan here, Cryptorama for Crypto Paradise? Are us and I think we have 400 or 500 views over on Twitter and maybe 10 or 20 people live in the YouTube. Are all of us going to be pre-rich until 2040? And Hexbull's going to take all of our money because Hexbull's clearly in a massive short. The fact that he's willing to throw an entire bash if Bitcoin goes to a new high. I mean, Hexbull over there killing it. It was early on Hex, sold the top, and now he might be right until 2040 for ETH.
2040. Well, if you look at this tweet, and I love this tweet, there is a lot of positive things that are happening on the way to 2040, which should increase the price of ETH along, the journey to year 2040. It's not like we're going to sit at $3,300 ETH until 2040 and then it teleports up to 100K, right? So I think some of these things here are reasonable predictions. I think some of them are maybe a little bit out there, but the supply collapsing. Let's start with that argument, right? I do think we get to a point where the burns outpace the amount that's getting paid out to the stakers. So it becomes truly deflationary. But I don't know if it becomes deflationary to the extent of burning 40, 30 million, whatever that number is, 20 million out of the total supply over the next 20 years, 15 years. I don't know if we get to that point, but if Ethereum no longer is inflationary, right now its inflationary is very low, but it's still inflationary. If it gets deflationary and yield bearing, and that's consistent over a multi-year period, that's very, very bullish for investors. There's almost no asset like it if that's what happens. So okay, so that's reasonable. Institutional accumulation, yeah, we know that's happening. We know ETH is drying up on the exchanges. That's all reasonable. Smart contracts, AI agents will explode. This to me is a little bit of a speculative theory that the world is going to start being run on these AI agents, which in turn will want to execute transactions on your behalf or whatever and have to use ETH or an L2, which kind of reverts back to ETH anyway, to execute those transactions. I don't know if we start to live in that world where AI agents are buying my flight tickets for me or something and they're just automatically doing I don't know. That seems a little far-fetched.
I think the functional possibility is there. I'm still a guy who gets paper bills because I've been screwed by, Charter double charging me before. So I like to just confirm, okay, I'm spending the $110. It says 110. No bullshit fees. Okay, we're good. I'll throw that in the trash now. So it's gonna be really hard for me to be like, yeah, I want to go to Tulum. Pick me the best flight. I'll trust you 100%. You decide my schedule. Go take care of it, rather than me spend the hour looking in, doing some research. It's not only about price. It's also about timing and layovers and different shit.
But I don't know if we get to a world where AI agents are just running all our lives and transactions automatically. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe some sectors of the economy, maybe some businesses. I don't know. My brain's not big enough to contemplate that. I kind of tend to like to live in reality rather than some utopia future world that may or may not come to fruition. But we got the stable coins. That's absolutely coming true. Running on ETH or ETH L2s, stable coins are becoming more prevalent. I don't know if the euro gets into it. I don't know if the euro sees the things the same way as the US does.
Depends on the leadership.
What?
Depends on the leadership. I'm also on the record. Yeah. The newest prediction that has been occurred. It might take some years to happen because this is a crazy one. The European Union will cease to exist, and individual countries will actually be leaving to take their culture back, to take their economy back, and try to flourish with other partnerships and relationships. The European Union, as it is created now, is very flawed, is going broke, and is getting taken over by other cultures, other individuals, and they are losing everything that they've built up over the years. What was once the greatest civilization known to mankind is falling by the wayside, falling into wokeness, falling into suicidal empathy, falling into mass immigration, culture depreciation, and it's very sad to see. Poland and some of these countries are trying to stand up, and when you're still part of that European Union, you find yourself stuck under the same parameters of the other leaders within there. So that's a prediction. European Union fails to exist in the way that it is currently. How does that all play out? I don't know, but for the citizens there that are starting to stand up and uprise, you need to elect the right people in. Poland has done that. Some other places have done that. And you need to take your countries back. Otherwise, things are getting ugly. Not from just mass migration, culture depreciation, economic instability, tax appreciation, loss of privacy, shall I go on. I mean, and the reason I root for that is Western civilization. If Europe falls or even Israel falls, Canada's kind of iffy. It affects the state of Western civilization as a whole globally and directly affects the United States, and which directly affects the financial markets. And I just think things unwind very poorly if things don't start to change. That's a little bit of a rant off topic.
I agree with most of your take on the EU. I agree with all the problems. And I agree that Europe, at least in sort of the common imagination of us Americans, is like that bastion of Western civilization. But when you go there and you look at on the ground what's happening, it's kind of degrading. It's not that case anymore because of the rampant immigration that's happened from other countries that just don't share the values, right? And look, I think it's a mistake to say everyone's the same, all cultures the same, and they're not. They're simply not. The one part of the take I disagree with, or I could say may not have, the existence of euro as a currency, I think will actually continue to exist.
When was the euro became a thing? Wasn't that recent, like within our lifetime? Wasn't it a decade or 2 decades ago where the euro became a thing?
Yeah, no, it is a recent thing.
Yeah.
But I actually think a lot of the Europeans like that there's the euro because, dude, it was a pain in the ass. We had the lira, the this, the that.
True.
I mean, come on, it was ridiculous.
And their countries are the size of some of our states, and they can take a 30-minute bus ride or train ride and get to another country.
Yeah, you need the unified currency, I think. Now you could argue that the central bankers over there, their policies may not help. Like we saw this in the fallout of the 2008 financial crisis, where policies that may have helped Germany didn't help Italy, didn't help Spain, and so there's a conflict there. But anyway, I think the euro, and I want to hear from the Europeans. Do you think the euro persists, but the EU as an institution either ceases to exist or drastically changes? I could see that. I could see a lot of countries saying, we want the euro to exist, but we don't need this rampant immigration. We need better policies. We need less regulation. We need less taxes. Like, let's change things, but let's keep some of the shit we like. That seems to me like a reasonable outcome. But let's see if this plays out. 2040. We're going to be rich by 2040, guys. Don't worry. We'll be rich by 2040. We'll be rich by 26.
We'll have about 10 bets with Hexbull. We'll be paying my last dollar. My last SBT share will be paying for Hexbull to go to Tulum and party in our face.
I'll tell you what, that's
15
years of partying in Tulum with Hexbull. I don't mind it. But no, we're gonna do fine, guys. We're gonna do well. 26, for all the reasons we constantly talk about, is going to be a good year for the financial markets. It's going to be a good year for risk on assets. I'm feeling bullish. I don't know about you guys, but dude, look, ETH. The bear case. I don't like this bear case, by the way. 15K by 2040. That would be disappointment times a million. I like this 40 to 100K ETH by 2040.
Hey, there you go. Look, $244,000 Bitcoin. Not only does that spook Hexbull out of his shorts, I would assume, but that also puts Ethereum at $22,000 to $35 if it approaches its previous ratio, which I think it will. So we'll see if that happens. I was very early to say that, and then all of a sudden, the quant of Tom Lee said, "Oh, 22,000 ETH." It's like, okay, guys, but at least it puts some validation to the words, and we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, Tom Lee and BitMine is upside down on the Ethereum positions at current prices. Maybe not at current, but at the lows they were. And we have a tug of war here between the 4-year halving cycle and the 5 or 6 year business cycle that could persist. We shall see what happens. We got the head and shoulders on Bitcoin pointing to 40,000 or 50,000. The head and shoulders on Ethereum pointing to 1,300 or 1,400. But you got upside objectives pointing to much higher, above 5,000 for Ethereum, above 126 for Bitcoin. The fundamentals are leading price in crypto right now. Will they kick in? Will that price follow fundamentals before we drop out and give up these previous lows? Only time will tell. And I guess you got to keep tuning in to Crypto Paradise to hear the banter between ourselves and Hexbull. Love the Hexbull being here, being active, and pushing his opinion without being overly derogatory, having fun with it, making bets. That's what it's all about. It's all about hearing other people's perspective, but in a disputable way, like in a respectable way, not just, oh, you guys are fucking retards, it's going lower, or we're not calling him an idiot, it's going higher. Wishing for him his demise or to get liquidated out of any short positions he has.
Oh, you got to have some humility in these financial markets. If you think you're always going to be right, I'm always right. Everyone else is stupid. The market's stupid. You're going to get wrecked and liquidated before you can say Bitcoin to 100K or 200K. So yeah, we're always respectful. We will always entertain other views. We know we're not right 100% of the time. I think, by the way, though, I am right 100% of the time on Bitcoin given a long enough time frame.
That's true.
That's the thing about being a bull. The thing about being a bull is you will eventually be right. I will eventually be right on Bitcoin, hitting $1 million. 10 years? My prediction is 10 years. Could it be 15? Could it be 20? I don't know. But it's gonna hit $1 million per Bitcoin, and then of course Ethereum's at 100K, whatever. We're all super rich. Willie's retired. Willie's well retired. 15 years from now, absolutely, man. If we can all retire in 15 years, that'd be great. That'd be great. If you stick in crypto long enough, and you manage to preserve capital at the right times, and you strike it lucky a couple times. I'm talking a very conservative sort of analysis here. If you can just be like conservatively in crypto for 15 years and you hold a couple of the right things and get lucky a few times, are you not going to be having made life-changing money at that point? 15 years?
Yeah, and Hexbull wants to dampen on our parade. We have a little bit of a red candle here in Ethereum, 31.08, down about $100, but sitting right on the moving average and still well above the previous low. Again, we need to hold that low of around 2,900 to keep putting in higher lows and keep a bullish constructive chart grinding higher slowly, then all at once. Again, we sold Ethereum above 4,000, bought it back at 2,740 bucks, 2,725 bucks. I don't know, Martin Mexican, you can tell us, you're in the private group. And now we're trying to ride this thing higher until we get reasons to believe otherwise.
To be clear, I did not sell any Ethereum. Okay, just so you guys know. Okay?
Trading bag, hodl bag, two different things.
I put my money where my mouth is.
Crypto Armor is a hodler.
Holding on to it. I sold some other stuff. I had to sell some things to pay taxes and pay that bullshit. Pay for my recent family vacation. But it is what it is. That's why you're invested. That's why you're in these markets. Hopefully you guys have some money left over from the previous bull run or from calls we had. We're all going to be fine. Just hang on to your capital. Don't get hacked. Don't get liquidated. And 2026, I think, is going to be a great year. Positive vibes. Always positive. We try to be. Not easy. Sometimes, look, even I wake up and I'm like, oh my God. Fucking Bitcoin. Just do something.
Damn it. Richard Hart still hasn't gone live. CZ said, we're deciding to press a sell button today. I mean, these guys have a lot of power, a lot of influence. Sometimes they got the positive vibes, which gives you good feeling, and other times they're down in the dumps too. So everybody's human when it comes to life and investing. The emotions are always going to creep in. It's about how you react to them.
Yeah, amen. No, I mean, we're not immune to it. We just try to take a long-term view of things. And when you do that, and I think you start to understand the inner workings of, let's just say, inflation, Fed policy, let's talk about politics and what's happening with the Trump administration. When you start to understand these big picture trends that are unfolding before our eyes, you can't help but be bullish over the long term. And so that's why I always recommend, like, even if you're bearish in the short term or you're feeling negative, you're feeling down, just zoom out. You're like, oh, okay, we're still early. There's adoption happening. In a few years from now, we'll look back and go, oh, remember when Bitcoin was sub 100K? Can you imagine? Like that. I mean, who remembers when Bitcoin was sub 3,000? I think I bought my first Bitcoin was 2,000. And now I'm laughing. So, for those who are a little bit later, that's okay. There's going to be your opportunities. Maybe a Bitcoin, you're not going to have that 100x anymore. But ETH is there, Solana, and of course there's low caps you can do very well on over the shorter time frames. So we're going to be good, guys. We're going to go, when in doubt, zoom out. And hopefully you're tuning in and you're enjoying the content and you're learning a little something and you're staying convicted and having some patience.
I think that about wraps it up for today. Over an hour. We got a couple calls. Maybe we can bring some more alpha to you. Again, we have many projects reaching out to us looking for marketing or maybe pre-sale raises or whatever it may be. We're just kind of taking our times with these things because the liquidity is not risk on when it comes to crypto. So, we're not trying to be the people getting ran over by a train here. Trying to find early opportunities, but try to delay timing as long as we can so they can get product out, get token out, have some success, have some momentum that we can all jump on board.
We're actually late for another call with the Quants team, so that's our bad. I've been bantering with you guys. So we got to get to work, folks, sadly enough. And until Monday, we will see you on the beach.